Do you think your movie might have potential to stir up some controversy? How do you welcome that?
I sure hope so. And I go, but that's because something like this hasn't been done yet.
Right. Okay.
And I believe that once it is, then people will like want to see more of that as well.
You're going against the recipe.
But they've kind of, it's just my opinion. This is my opinion. They've given up the story. And I believe that people are now more interested in like seeing the story unfold. And I'm out there holding it. I wasn't the guy submerged in the water. And as I step out there, the tape comes off and the mic falls in the water.
Ooh.
Boom. And everybody looks at me. And I said, well...
What can you say what the movie's about? Like as much without giving too much away.
Well, I can tell you what the movie's
give it
about.
all away.
Yeah, or give it all away. Yeah, I can tell you what the movie's about. That's really the only way change will come about. Is someone has to come along and pioneer a new vision.
Yes.
You know, and when you do that, you start to see that other people want to see these things too. Make no mistake, this isn't a revolution. This is reconquest. And people are like, hey, man, that sounds kind of... But...
I got chills. I got motivated.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to Too Hard, Too Fast podcast. In this episode, we're joined by the Carmona himself. I say the because he's a filmmaker, director, actor. And he's currently filming here in San Antonio a movie called King of the South. I've seen some of the pictures of the film. I follow some of the people that are on there. It looks really cool so far.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you very much.
I don't know if you guys are strategically maybe just not giving too much away, but with the stuff that is coming out and the photos that people are sharing, it looks very intriguing and maybe a little dark. We'll get into that. We'll get to know a little bit more about you, and we'll talk about some of the actors that are on there. Some of the actors have actually been on Too Hard, Too Fast. So I support this even more so now. But no, thanks for coming on, and let's sit back, buckle up. Let's go Too Hard, Too Fast. Hey.
Hey, ¿qué onda, mi gente? This is Carmona Gemini going too hard y too fast.
Aquí estamos, baby. King of the South. Let's go. Carmona. I gotta say it without trying to sound too English speaking. Carmona. It's
like Picasso.
I know we spoke a little bit off camera, but and I asked you if you're like from San Antonio. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from all over the place, all over Texas. But I would say home base. I spent my formative years. I went to high school in a small town in East Texas que se llama Diboll, Texas.
Okay. I've never heard of it. Small town.
Yeah, most people haven't, at least not yet.
They're gonna have a sign.
For sure,
right,
for sure.
The town of Carmona.
Ándale.
There you go. That's what I say about Eagle Pass. I don't know if you know it. It's been in the news more often now, but
yeah, I just got back from Eagle Pass a couple of weeks ago, actually.
Visiting or filming?
Visiting, and we actually went into Acuña and went to the bar where they shot El Mariachi.
Oh, nice.
Because the original mariachi, Carlos Gallardo, or Gallardo, he still lives there. He actually lives in the building where Carolina's, Salma Hayek's coffee shop was.
Yeah.
That's where he lives. And we were down there doing some interviews, doing some press for King of the South. And we happened to walk by the bar, and I said, hey, well, let's go inside. And we went inside, met with the owners. And, you know, I said, like, hey, I'm making this film called King of the South. For me, it kind of started with mariachi when I saw that when the first one came out. I think it was back in 91 or 92.
Yeah.
And so I said, hey, it's
Well, you said Selma Hayek. I remember there's El Mariachi with Antonio Banderas.
Ándale, yeah.
And then there's Desperado.
Ándale. Oh, the first mariachi was El Mariachi, and that was with Carlos Gallardo.
Okay.
The second one was Desperado, which was kind of like a remake of mariachi, but with money.
Yeah.
And you could
With a
cast.
budget.
Yeah, exactly. But personally, the first one's my favorite.
I like both, and I really do like both. But I can quote you Desperado a lot more than El Mariachi, just because I gravitated to that one. I think I saw that one first before I saw El Mariachi. I didn't know El Mariachi existed until, and when I first saw it, I thought Antonio Banderas was Mexican, so I was for sure I was like, dude.
But we did go to that bar and did talk to the owners about shooting there, about shooting a scene there, and they gave me the blessing. So
That's awesome.
we'll be heading back at least before the year's over.
Is there any? Have you filmed anything in Mexico before?
No, not yet.
Okay. Now, just wondering because there's I don't want to talk bad about it, but there's like horror stories, obviously, and everything. Like there was this one movie, No Country for Old Men, that was actually filmed in Piedras Negras, where I was born.
Oh, okay.
So obviously it was like the best thing. I don't know if it happened there but they were saying like that people were getting their stuff stolen or whatever. But I hope that that's not the case. But I don't know if obviously you're gonna have to take precautions anywhere you go. Okay? People will do dumb stuff everywhere.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
Have you had any issues here in San Antonio?
Issues? No.
Besides the weather?
No. San Antonio's been a blessing. The community here, the artistas, the poetas, painters, musicians, actors, filmmakers, everybody here has been very hospitable. They've welcomed me with open arms. I have a lot of support. Most of the actors, I'd say probably 80% of the actors are from San Antonio, and it's a who's who of San Antonio peeps, man.
Yeah, I mean, we can name a few, and I'll obviously you got Rev Ray.
Rev Ray, this is his first feature film. He's a musician that I met through Shelly Lares, which is a really good friend of mine. So shout out to Shelly. What's up?
Shelly.
And El Gallo Dez, which is also an artist of hers. He's playing El Poeta de Aztlán, and his name is Palabra Carmona. And let me see who else. There's Janie Victoria. She's playing Adelita. And our modern day Adelita is a litigator. She's an attorney. So we've traded balas for pens. Okay. So it's just a modern day version of that.
So is this movie like a remake of sorts, or is this original?
No, this is an original tale. This is an original tale that was inspired by my abuela.
Okay. And I only ask because I obviously looking through your work and researching, I saw a poster, King of the South, and it had you front and center, and it's a person behind you.
Oh, Little Joe.
But it seemed like it was a movie poster already, and then they dated it 2022.
Oh no, I think you're talking about that was the first como se dice, iteration of King of the South. This project's been on my mind and it's been in the works for, I'd say, probably going on 4 years. That first poster was with a producer that's no longer attached to it. So that's what that poster you're referring to. Okay. The new poster has myself and Little Joe from Little Joe y La Familia.
Oh, okay.
Who he's playing my father in the in the movie series. The reason I say that is because, when I did start the project, it was different. And when I got to San Antonio, I didn't expect the level of talent that's here. Actors like Kiki Suki, J.J. Fernandez, Stormy Lopez, Stephen Andrews, another gentleman named Fernando Mora, and we got a couple of other actors. But as far as the Sananto peeps, I didn't expect that level of skill set. And once I saw that, I couldn't just, give them a couple of scenes or a couple of lines. So by the time we're done, I really don't know if it'll be a film. If it is a film, it stands to be like a 6-hour film.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but, everything is a series now.
Yeah.
So I think we're looking more towards that. But like with a lot of things, I don't have to cross that bridge just yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So by the time, because this industry is changing so much, changing by the day, by the second, we don't know if the streaming service will be Amazon Prime, Netflix, or by then have my own streaming service.
Right.
The King of the South universe. And that's kind of the trajectory of the way things are going.
Yeah. It's true. It takes a long time to make a film, and then to edit and post production.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's true. You never know what direction everything's gonna go to. And then I think the guy, I wish I could remember his name, but the one that directed Desperado,
Robert Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes, one of my favorites, and I forgot his name.
Who's from San Anto, actually.
I got to meet him once. Super cool guy, but it was like real quick, brief meeting. But he started El Rey Network.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of the same thing. So I can see where your mind can be in that direction and would be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the idea of a movie series.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of movies, and then it's probably the industry that they cut out a lot of good stuff to make sure they meet the standard of length,
Mm-hmm.
And so now that a lot of things are getting into a movie series, you're able to play around with a little more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That
it gives you the opportunity to really dive deep into the story and the characters. Right now the standard of a film is like maybe 90 minutes, and there's a lot of cuts. It's very fast paced, and I come from the cinema of the 70s, where things were like heavy dialogue, where the foundation was the story, the special effect was the story, and actors had these long monologues. But actors were more adept then than now. Now it's very quick. Like the John Wicks are really fast. But they've kind of, it's just my opinion, this is my opinion, they've given up the story. And I believe that people are now more interested in like seeing the story unfold.
Yeah. There's people, I fall on both ends of this. I'll say, I'll just talk for myself on this. I do like movies that are just action packed and, what do they call it? Murder porn. I like those kind of movies, but I'm also the kind that likes building of a story, and it takes a while for it to like the payoff later. You get to know somebody, you get to know a character, and then there's a big payoff at the end for it. And I also like musicals, so I'm all over the place.
And there's room for all of that. If the pandemic taught us anything, there's something for everybody.
There really is. Let's go back a little bit to how you got started. How did you get started into the movie business?
Well, actually, it's, Robert Rodriguez. Machete. I was in the movie Machete. I played Mojado number 3, and that was the name of the character.
It's a good name,
right? And so I did that. I met Danny.
Here in San Antonio, they like to call us mojos.
Oh, mojos. I'd rather go with mojo. But I did Machete, and I got to meet Danny Trejo, and he gave me some really good advice. He said, you have talent. You have skill. If I were you, I would make my own things, and accentuate those talents you have. but also accentuate the weaknesses, learn the craft of filmmaking and storytelling, and so you won't get typecast. And I kind of ran with that advice, because the next auditions that I would go to was always, the thug or the secario or the narco. Just I noticed the pattern.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, there's more to us than this. And so I took that advice, went back to East Texas, and I started a film group called NAC Film Theory.
NAC Film Theory.
Because I was based out of Nacogdoches at the time.
Okay.
So the theory was that if you have a good story, you have a good film.
Yeah.
And I was able to just start writing and directing my own things. And within that year, what I had said is we were going to make one short film a month. Of course, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, because I didn't really know how films were made. I didn't think of the post-production. I didn't think of, setting up the camera, different angles, and all those things take time. No. But we were able to do it. We were actually able to do that, and then some. We ended up doing like 16 projects in that 1 year. And we hooked up with the band called Del Castillo out of Austin, which actually they're going to be playing at the George Lopez comedy show coming up. When Robert Rodriguez plays music, he joins the band. They changed their name from Del Castillo to Chingon.
Okay.
And they did the music
when Robert plays with them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they did the music for Kill Bill.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and they did some of the music, I think, on Desperado as well. So once I hooked up with those guys, it just kind of flushed the rest of the films out. I did some concerts of them and things like that. I did some commercials, music videos, documentaries, and things like that.
Yes. And everything kind of just learning by walking through the fire.
Yes. What we did is we would get the genres and we would put them in a hat, and we'd shake the hat up and we'd pull a genre out and say, okay, sci-fi, orale. So I would write a sci-fi because I make my bones as a writer. So it was challenging, but it's the best film school. It's the best film school.
Yeah. And then I know you said that you had no experience, with the camera, the post-production. I can imagine mistakes were made.
Yes, mistakes.
How costly were those mistakes sometimes, and how did you fix it?
Man, that's what filmmaking is. It's problem solving. I remember the first thing that we did was a movie called Once Upon a Time in the Oldest Town in Texas. And we did that as like a test run. There's these things called the 48-hour film projects. I don't know if you've heard of those.
No, I don't want to pretend like I do. Like, I feel like I've maybe heard the term, but I have no idea what it is.
48-hour film project is a great learning tool. It's this, you log in, or you pay a fee, of course, for you and your team if you have one, and they give you 2 genres, and you pick either genre. They give you 3 details that have to be in the movie and a line of dialogue that has to be. So if it's a horror movie, it has to have these elements in it. If it's a sci-fi, it has to have these elements in it. So I think the 2 elements that we got were horror movie and silent. So I said, hey, let's do horror, right? So we were going to do a play on the werewolf thing. And the first day of shooting, the very first scene, we start out with this man like submerged in the water, and he comes out of the pond and he comes walking onto land. And we didn't have a boom mic at the time. We had a microphone. We taped it to a broomstick, and I'm out there holding it. I wasn't the guy submerged in the water. And as I step out there, the tape comes off and the mic falls in the water.
Ooh.
Boom. And everybody looks at me. And I said, well, we're going to make a silent horror movie. And, we just rolled with it.
Yeah.
Just rolled with it. And the other one was, I think I was telling you, I ran we finally got a boom mic, but I didn't pick up the cord.
Mm-hmm.
So all day long, I was so enthralled with, learning a new skill that I forgot to pick up the cord. And so when we watched the footage, that's all you heard was this, a timely lesson, but one learned.
Yeah.
It never happened to me again. That's for sure. That's for sure.
No, yeah, because were you in that moment where the cord kind of messed up the audio? Were you guys able to go back and refilm, or it was just lost?
It was just lost. It would have been more work, I think, to do it. And so we just said, all right, well, let's just reshoot it.
Yeah, no, that's...
And most of those projects were like one or two characters. So if I wasn't in front of the camera, I was behind it. In those days, I was, shooting, writing, directing, everything except editing.
Yeah. So the other thing that I'm also intrigued is that you mentioned here in San Antonio, we have a lot of great talent.
Oh.
How did you find talent for? Because, and I'll say it this way, and I hope it doesn't sound mean at all, because I don't mean it like that. It just, San Antonio, I feel like, has locations to film. I didn't know we had a hub for actors.
Oh, okay.
So how did you find,
I would have to credit that to Brandy Lopez. Brandy Lopez is a figure here out of San Anto. She's an actress from the General Hospital. She is she's the one that has all the connections, all of them. So I met her through the first producer for King of the South. And when I met her, we remained in contact, even though me and that producer fell out. It was actually, she was the one that actually arranged the meeting with Little Joe from Little Joe y La Familia. And she reached out to him, and he's like, yeah, I'll meet with him. Me and him hit it off. So once he was involved, and with Brandy's involvement as well, that just opened the door, to other actors. And then slowly but surely, they started to hear about the project and, intrigued as well, because the way that, I guess you call it marketing, the way we're doing it is different, because we're not really posting too much.
Right.
We're keeping a lot of things under the table. Mm-hmm. Just, it draws the interest.
That's how I like to do business, under the table. No, I'm just kidding.
But, so the marketing is working because it's
created an intrigue.
Very, very. And it's created such intrigue that New Orleans now is reaching out. There's an actor out of New Orleans named Brandon Lee. He reached out through JJ Fernandez, and he said, hey, I need to be in this King of the South. So we're expanding that universe to New Orleans, which then leads to Atlanta, which eventually leads to Detroit. Okay. So it's just gotten so much bigger than I'd anticipated.
I can imagine. And I love New Orleans, so this, if we're talking San Antonio scenery, New Orleans scenery is pretty awesome too. Why San Antonio? Why?
Because I'd written this role for Brandy Lopez, and I said, hey, I need a few more actors. Do you know any? And she introduced me to a few more people, and then when I was here, we were talking about it, and other people started reaching out, and it just made more sense to me to do it here, because, like I said, there is this, extremely talented group of artists here. It just made more sense to me. It seemed easier for me myself to just go ahead and shoot it all here, to employ all of the actors from here. And it really didn't require me to go anywhere else. Yeah. So if there are other actors from other areas, my original idea was to film some in San Antonio, some in Dallas, some in Houston, and some in Austin, and some in South Texas. I'm a poet, activist, and a musician. So because of that, I've been able to meet a lot of different people from here all the way to California. I did a documentary called La Obra de los Libros Traficantes about maybe 10 years ago. And we shot that in Houston, San Anto, El Paso, Albuquerque, Las Cruces, Tucson, and then finally Califas. So in that film there, I met, poets, singers, actors, playwrights, just people that I've known throughout for probably over 15 years now.
Like-minded individuals.
So if I knew a group of musicians out of Arizona that knew musicians in Mexico, they'd say, hey, Carmona's coming through, he's a camarada of mine, things like that. And then, we'd hook up and do music, poetry, and things like that. And it's almost like it was laying down the foundation for now.
And I can say it's kind of the best way to meet new people. And I say that with the experience of, the reason we connected was because of Shelly.
That's right.
And, Shelly and other people that are in your movie, we've all connected in a sense. We became friends just through these connections. And it helps you kind of validate. I don't know if validate's the right word. There's a lot of fake stuff out there.
Very.
So, and people that are always promising something and not following through. So when you have that word of mouth as camarada, we're friends or, somebody you can trust, and it helps.
Yeah, and a lot of that is based on the way you carry yourself, the way you've carried yourself in different situations. Word of mouth gets around pretty fast. If you're a creep, if you're someone that doesn't keep their word, but like I said, I was able to maintain all these friendships and to be welcomed in a city based on the word of somebody. And because of that person's word, it was good enough for them.
Yeah.
And I've had many situations like that when they're like, hey, so-and-so said you were good. Here's the key to the house. Go clean up, do what you need to do. And that's a trust thing. And that was, like I said, that's a foundation that was laid, over probably, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the word that was used actually when I recorded with Shelly. It was integrity.
Yes, so integrity.
I think it's definitely keeps showing up. The people that I meet and people I get to do things with and people that I don't get to do things with. Like it's a big word because it carries a lot of weight.
It carries a lot of weight. It carries more weight than most.
Yeah, definitely. What can you say what the movie's about? Like as much without giving too much away.
Well, I can tell you what the movie's about. Yeah, or give it all away. Yeah, I can tell you what the movie's about. It's about two brothers in search of the American dream that become part of the American nightmare. It's one brother that's running for governor of Texas, which, he's a proud Mexicano, a proud Tejano, which, we could really use right now. And the other brother, not so much. But they're the same, two sides of the same coin. And showing that the political world and the street world are pretty much the same, because in the street you have politics as well.
Oh, yeah.
But also showing that the street has a bit more integrity, because that the street's gonna eat. There's no fake in the funk there. But with politicians, there's the smiles and the handshakes and broken promises, basically. Right. Yeah. Also, the story.
No, you don't want to break a promise in the streets.
No. Yeah, that's a death sentence.
Yeah,
that's a death sentence. And as one brother ascends in the political world, the other one kind of ascends in the street world as well. Also, the stories about Aztlán, which is the Southwest, which is California to Texas.
Okay.
And back when that was Mexico. They believe that that's where the Mexicano originated from. And that's the home of Mexica, So Aztlán is sort of like this mythical Xanadu, right? The legend is that one day the people will rise back up and reclaim all that territory that was stolen from us. and establish a new republic. You know, and it's a new day, a new vision. And my father in the story, Little Joe, because Little Joe was part of that movement in the 60s with Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, you know, they've seen the change where back then they didn't have people in high positions of authority, like senators and congressmen, governors, mayors, lawyers, doctors, and they didn't have the resources that they needed for the vision that they had. So in the story, what my father does with his group of men is he sends one to California, one to New Mexico, Arizona, you know, like Trojan horses. And he says within 30 to 40 years' time, we should be somebody, if not us, our children. You know, so here we are, those, you know, we're in our 50s. So now you look and there's senators, congressmen, lawyers, chiefs of police. So we're in that era now. And in the story, it's Trojan horses that have been sent out through the Southwest. The first one to come up is my brother, Tenoch, which is played by J.J. Fernandez, where he's running for the governor of Texas, and he's the first. You know, and then the other states will follow suit.
I like the names that you're using too. Like very authentic.
Todo mexicano, todo mexicano. And that's you know, that's kind of the backdrop of the story of establishing a new society where we're not marginalized, where, you know, we're actually given our just due. I like that. And I grew up, and this question, between friends, and sometimes my brother and I will talk about it. When we see somebody that looks like us on TV or looks like us in a place of authority, it's he asked me the other day, was like, did you ever get that feeling of like pride seeing somebody else that's like you in something that you respect? It's like, yeah, like I made a joke about it. I first made him feel dumb about it. I mean, obviously we're gonna joke, but I told him no. I really, I did feel like like anything, TV or, you know, even on the radio. We used to listen to the radio all the time, and somebody's talking in Spanish. Se habla español en el radio. It's like, but just stuff like that. But then as I grew up, I don't know what has always been in me. That says like I'm meant for something, whatever it is. I'm meant for something, to do something good or something for some. And so I started thinking, well, why not just them? Why not me? You know, why not us? Exactly.
You know, and it goes along to this podcast. Everybody's welcomed on, and I want everybody to win on whatever they're doing. Because it's not about me. It's about you guys. It's about everybody that comes in, gives me their time so I can share their story. But obviously I would like to see Mexicanos or anybody that Latinos in any sense rise up. Maybe I'm a Trojan horse.
You are. You are.
Yeah,
you are.
But I like that. I love that you just shared that with us. About the movie, and
because a lot of our history has been erased or swept under the table.
Kept it quiet a lot.
Very. And so, you know, it's only we get bits and pieces, right? Well, for one, that we're a minority, and that's impossible because we were here first. How can we be a minority? But that's what was told to us, and we bought into that idea. We've always been considered like this demure people. Also, you know, there's the other side of that, what they call crabs in a bucket, of pulling each other down, which is unfortunate. But I believe that we are now in that era of we want to see ourselves, we want to support us, because when Hollywood does portray us, it's usually in a bad connotation. It's usually in a bad light. Like me, myself, when I was going to these auditions, it was always something negative.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, like, there's more to us than that.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my mother about that, and she goes, well, do something about it. And I said, okay. And that's really the only way change will come about. is someone has to come along and pioneer a new vision.
Yeah.
You know, and when you do that, you start to see that other people want to see these things too.
Mm-hmm.
Other people want to see us in positions of, you know, of pride. Because once you start learning about your cultura, where you come from, the history of your people, it fills you, number one, with a sense of identity. And it fills you with a sense of pride. And at one time, pride was kind of looked at as like, you know, envidioso, or like it was something negative. But it, you know, it's not.
No.
You're proud of where you come from, proud of where you are, and proud of where you're going. And I kind of took and I ran with that because, you know, the more I learned about my cultura, the more I started to realize that, man, they don't teach us this in school. So a lot of the things that I learned, I had to learn on my own, which you have to do your own research.
Yeah.
And then once you start learning these things, you just want to tell everybody because it fills you with a sense of pride. So then in turn, you start telling other people, and it starts to fill them with a sense of pride. Un orgullo para tu cultura, para tu gente.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. Now, I grew up in a border town, where I crossed into Mexico many times, especially to visit family. So a lot of the culture and pride was there, but then the farther I got away from the border, the more I lost it. I lost most of my. I still speak Spanish, also, like, but it's more conversational. Like if for something more professional, like if I'm at a professional setting, I do get lost in the words every once in a while, and I'll have to like, ¿cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice? But it's good to see films like this coming out, especially how you mentioned, like, we're portrayed in a certain light, and most things. I think it's starting to make a change, and it is because of people like you that have made it into a different light.
Yes, it's an exciting time right now because Hollywood has lost the stranglehold that it's had for so long, and it's here in Texas now.
Yeah,
we have Texas, Louisiana, we have Atlanta as well, and that's just kind of taken over. Here in Texas, there's being studios built left and right. There's a big major studio being built in Houston. I think my understanding is there's one being built in New Braunfels as well, or really? San Marcos or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So things are changing. Things are definitely changing, and people are starting to take it into their own hands. And it's like the gold rush, man. It's a free for all. You got a camera, like, shoot, and now it's like, you know, the game has changed where it's how many followers do you have?
Yeah.
You know, and how many people share your thing. So if you're doing a film and you let's say you have 5 million followers and I have 5 million followers and they have 5 million followers, well, now there's 15, and
everybody shares.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not like, this is a Mexican movie for Mexicans. I think it's for anybody, and that's the beauty thing about what's going on. And like, cultures are being portrayed on TV, and just because I'm not black doesn't mean I don't watch that movie. It's made for everybody. There's a connection somewhere. So,
because you know, everyone experiences loss, heartbreak, disappointment, joy. I think basically everybody wants the same
the struggle
thing.
between good and evil, and, you know, our brother rising up over.
And that's I don't think that's just like for one culture. I think that's just a humanistic endeavor that we all have. With New Orleans on board now, it gives me the opportunity now to explore that particular group of people, you know, from there, and with Atlanta as well, to see that the black and brown communities are very similar, that they've always been kind of pitted against each other, and you know, and we've seen this in movies and heard this in music. Like, what if they got together? Then what? You know, there's a real power there. And we explore that in King of the South. And King of the South, the name itself gives this vibe of like, like Queen of the South, you know. But I myself wasn't really a fan of that because, once again, it was just, these are bad people. This is not a good example for our people,
Right?
Especially for the younger people coming up.
Oh yeah, I remember when Narcos came out, the movie or the show, and when it made its way into the Narcos from Mexico, I was like, yeah, Mexico's rough with certain aspects like this, but it's not completely like that. We're not all like that.
And the thing with like things like that is they try to make it like they show the human side of it, but it's almost like they want you to root for them. But these are not good people.
Yeah.
Not that they're all bad people.
Yeah.
But still, at the same time,
Yeah, it's I don't want to talk too much about them. The Narcos.
My bad.
No problemas here.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's weird. But I fall into that. I fall into rooting for the anti-hero or the bad guy sometimes. Like one of my favorite characters is the Joker. So I get it. I get the love in that. But it's because sometimes it's like it's portrayed as like rising up against what was told to us was good, but really was not.
Right.
And I think that is almost maybe touching on the aspect of your movie.
Yeah. And the other thing is I have a friend of mine who says, look, if you want to have a successful film, you have to have these elements in it. And he's in the business. And every element he named, I was like, yeah, I don't have any of those elements. He says, well, I mean, then how do you plan on succeeding? Like, those are the elements that are needed. And I go, but that's because something like this hasn't been done yet.
Right. Okay.
And I believe that once it is, then people will like want to see more of that as well.
You're going against the recipe, and I think that's what is the thing that people are looking for right now.
Especially the actors, because if you're an actor and you've got these muscles, then of course you're going to be, something with muscles. If you're a beautiful woman, then of course you're probably going to be asked to do things that maybe you wouldn't be comfortable with your parents going to see. But once people who have come near the projects, they start seeing the writing, they start seeing the story, that you might have muscles, but I want to tap into something else. I want to subvert that.
Yeah.
I want to subvert your muscles and not put a gun in your hand, but show you, chasing butterflies with your granddaughter.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Or having like a heartfelt moment of like breaking down.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing about film is it's therapeutic. Some of the people that are involved in this film, who have had a rough past, and they're like maybe in their 50s, 60s. So if they're old school gangsters, number one, you made it out of the 90s. And the 90s was, rock and roll, right? And if you went to the penitentiary in the late 90s, early 2000s, man, that was rock and roll too. And if you were able to survive that and come out and here you are, 45, 50 years old, and you made it, like, man.
Making TikToks.
Yeah. That's a blessing. Or, you're with your granddaughter, chasing butterflies.
Yeah.
Or knowing, like, what pipe-bind swallowtails are. Or, bird watching and things like that. And I've had these conversations with gentlemen like that. Because a lot of them come towards the project, like, hey, I'm interested. And what I like to do with that is I like to use their past life, and because it's a way to heal. Yeah. It's a way to talk about your trauma. And when you're doing that, other people that are watching will be like, yeah, me too. I have a friend of mine, Brother Pete Torres, who I think Saturday he'll be going to the jails, and he's casting King of the South. So he's going to talk about that. And we're planning on going with him as well to talk about that, because those are places that I came from as well. Okay. I went through there as well. Yeah. That was sort of, an education, And so I definitely know that in those places, there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of skills. There's a lot of trauma. And like I said, if you're able to make it out of there and you realize that you can use those things to propel yourself into maybe another career, things
Another
like that.
life.
Another life, man. And then what you do then is that people see you and like, oh, I was locked up with that vato. And now look at him. And it gives people hope.
Yeah.
And hope's a beautiful thing.
Yep. And that also takes away from the crab in the buckets, the buckets in the crab thing.
Yes.
Because like people now want to be, instead of saying, ese vato que se cree, it's like, oh, that guy made it. I can make it. And then we start.
And that's just introducing a different mindset.
Yeah.
And you have to walk the walk.
I think that's definitely where we're at. We're making that different mindset.
Oh yes, man. It like I said, it's an exciting time to be a creative right now.
For sure. So I really like the idea of the movie. I like people like you that are making a change, not just for brown people, not just for us, the culture of Latinos, Hispanics, Mexicans, whatever, but for the people itself who are tired of the recipe. I'm definitely one of those that are tired of recipes in music and movies. I want to see something different, and I think this is definitely what you're offering. I also want to see people that are usually typecasted as the bad people, and something different, and for actors that don't no longer have to change their name from James Rodriguez to James Rode.
There you go.
That or have to portray that they're not Mexican or So I like that. I like that this is where things are going.
And with that too is that you not only do you have to have people that write these things and direct these things, but you also have to have people that are willing to invest, that are willing to produce something like that. The producer for this, she sees the potential.
Okay.
She sees the vision. She sees that this is a therapeutic endeavor, and because of that, she's like, let me help you. Let me help you. I believe in your vision. I believe in what you're doing. What's holding you back? And, I told her, well, equipment-wise, things like that. And so she's really come through. She's really come through. And you have to have people like that, because you can have the actors, you can have the writing, you can have these things. But until you have your own studio, basically, then it's just a dream,
right?
But there's a lot of working parts to it.
Yeah, no, definitely. People that are buying in is definitely the thing that they can produce. I guess is that the right? That's the right term, I think that's probably the hardest part to get it. Or I think people are quick to buy into the idea, but when it comes down to business and kind of having to get dirty and doing the work or providing the money, that is probably a little bit more difficult. But
yeah, but man, I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I'm blessed beyond everything. Came from just taking a chance.
Yeah.
And when you do find people that are willing to take a chance on you too, because they see something different in you, they see that you're going against the algorithm, and they're like, yes, okay, finally something different.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of us out there that are doing that as well.
I'm fighting that algorithm myself. Multiple algorithms. But where I was saying, people changing their names and all that, that's stirred up a little controversy in its own. Do you think your movie might have potential to stir up some controversy? How do you welcome that?
I sure hope so. Because the thing with controversy is that it starts conversation. And that's what you want. You want an open dialogue. Yeah. You want people to talk about it. You want people to... A lot of this has stirred up a lot of interest, right? And I've had some people reach out and say, "Hey, this is, you watch the trailer and it's the message is hard, because he said that this isn't. Make no mistake, this isn't a revolution. This is reconquest." And people are like, "Hey, man, that sounds kind of," But
I got chills. I got motivated.
yeah. So, but if you, the other line is existence is resistance.
Existence is resistance.
Because as you know, the history of our people, you know, the history of the government exterminating the buffalo, you know, so that they would have to rely on the government to feed your people. That's horrible.
Yeah.
But that's a fact. That happened. And there's a lot of things that happen that have, you know, have got us to the point where we are now. So, like I tell my nephew all the time, you know, just when you walk into the room, that's a statement right there. Because we were held down. They would try to exterminate us. They tried to conquer us and colonize us. So when you walk in, just the fact that you exist is the statement, and that's where the existence is resistance comes from.
I like that. That's cool. I mean, sometimes I'm a little afraid of the controversy. I don't know why. You know, people have always told me, like, you know, ni modo, you know. If it comes, it comes. So I try to like play a little in the middle lane. Not necessarily like to appease everybody, but more like to welcome everybody in that sense. But
you know, I think also, man, that we forget that America was founded on this spirit of exploration, on the spirit of looking for a better life and better opportunity. That's when those Europeans came from over there to over here, because they were looking for something different, which isn't unlike people coming from Mexico doing the same thing. It's no different.
Right.
It's actually la cosa más americano, because that's done in the spirit of making a better life, looking for, you know, something better for your familia. And so imagine that if you go to Japan, you don't speak the language, you don't know the customs, you don't know the culture, and they don't want you there, number one. And not only do you go, but you take your wife, who's pregnant, and 3 kids, right? I mean, man, that's a gamble.
Yeah.
That's a spirit. That's the spirit of freedom. You're looking for something better for you and your familia. Yeah. It's probably like la cosa más americana. Because if you're from here and born here, you're not going to know what that's like. You know, you're never going to have that hardship. You never. Right? But here we have our gente coming, you know, looking for that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I can see it that way. And I like that. The idea of the existence is the resistance. Especially, you know, and since we're here in Texas, that whole the controversy itself is the border crossed us kind of idea. But there's so much pride and Texans, Tejanos, and Mexicanos. So all that mixture here in Texas, like, it just plays into the movie as well. You know.
And those are things that we explore in the film.
Yeah.
And like I said, if anything, it starts a conversation.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, then don't watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's also true, but you have to watch it to not like it.
That's right.
You know, like just like I tell my son, if you're gonna tell me that you don't like this and you haven't tried it, you know, this food, then how do you know you don't like it?
Exactly.
So watch it, then make a decision, and then after that, the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Carmona, it's been a pleasure. I have one more question to ask you, but before all that, where can people find more information from the movie or follow you or anything about the movie?
I'm on Instagram. I go by Carmona Gemini. That's CarmonaGemini. You can also find me on Facebook under Gabriel Carmona. You follow me there, you'll up to date on what's going on with not just this creative endeavor, but other ones I have as well. I do have 2 films that will be showing at the San Antonio Film Festival here next month.
Oh, wow, okay.
Lavaplatos and Rite of Passage. And in fact, Lavaplatos has also been selected to the South Texas International Film Festival this year. And Lavaplatos has the first appearance of the King of the South.
Oh, okay. That's a big deal.
Very.
That's a big deal. San Antonio Film Festival, I've heard a lot about it, and it gets really big, really popular.
I think they're like 30 years in the making. It's Adam Roca, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Too Hard, Too Fast story, before I let you go. It could be a funny story, a cautionary tale, or words of wisdom.
Wow. Too Hard, Too Fast story.
And I'll tell you a little bit as you think about that. Too Hard, Too Fast. It was a term that was coined back in college by me to a friend who, when we used to go out to parties, we'll go too hard, too fast. And the next morning, the conversation is like, oh man, I don't remember what happened, or you got kicked out too early, or the party ended too early. It's like, hey man, it's because you're going too hard, too fast. Slow down and enjoy the moment. And that's what too hard, too fast really means is slow down, enjoy the moment.
Well, hopefully this kind of is what you're looking for. But when I was 10 years old, my stepdad, who was in the radio station business at the time, he would have, in his contract, he wanted a trailer house directly behind the radio station. And back in the early 80s, radio stations were like outside of the city limits, so I didn't have friends or anything like that. The cool thing about it was that anytime like Monster Truck Rally came, Carnival, things like that, we always had tickets. So one year, the Von Erichs, which were wrestlers,
big time here in Texas.
We're going to be at the Civic Center. And he asked me, I was 10 years old. He says, do you want to meet them? I'm like, what? Yeah, I want to meet them, man. He says, well, they're going to come to the radio station and do some promotion. And then later that evening, we'll go to the Civic Center and watch them. So I'm like, okay. So I'm in the house behind the radio station, and they're in the booth. And they're talking. They're like, hey, everybody come on out tonight to the Civic Center and watch the Von Erichs. He goes, and the Freebirds are in there. Iceman, King Parsons, the Missing Link, like the who's who.
Yeah.
He says, and, we'll show you who's the kings of Texas. And then they start fighting. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. Right? So I run to the radio station. I get buzzed in. I go into the DJ booth, and the DJ's talking. He says, like, they're in the lobby. So, I run to the lobby, and I see them, and they're, like, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. Like...
regular people.
Yeah, the Freebirds and the Von Erichs, like, breaking bread. Yeah. The Missing Link from Parts from Unknown, who never speaks. He's speaking English. He's from Detroit. And, I was like, what? Wait, so this isn't real, right? And now for a 10-year-old boy... that's everything. And I remember that night, we went to the Civic Center, and I'm sitting ringside, right? And, I'm having this existential crisis at 10 years old. Like, am I real? Like, are you even my mom? Like, who am I? Things like that, right? And Too Hard, Too Fast.
Too fast.
Too Hard, Too Fast.
Those are real thoughts right there.
Yes, and at 10 years old, because wrestling to a 10-year-old, man, that's like everything.
Oh, yeah. My son's into it right now, and every now and then.
Oh, don't let him watch this.
No. I've had to explain to him, like, because he'll try to hit you over the head with a chair. Like, bro, that's not how it works, They're... what they're doing is real, but it's choreographed in a way where they're not really trying to hurt each other.
It's trained athletes.
So we've just gone too hard, too fast. Carmona, I really appreciate this time. I would love to have you back on, any project if you want to be on. I would love it. I know we're friends. We're connected, so I'm going to be stalking you for all that. Any hint of where or when the movie might be out?
I would say early next year.
Okay.
Early next year.
I can't wait that long.
But the first episode, where I call the first chapter, is already done.
Oh, okay.
And so we're working on where we're going to premiere that. If we're going to have a showing, a private screening, or if we're just going to drop it online or whatever. But I would also like to thank you, for because it takes people like you, to get out there and meet the people, to get in your truck, to go these places, to make these connections, to notify people of what's going on.
Yeah.
So without people like you that are, doing the work, then, where would we be?
Thank you.
I appreciate you, man.
No, I appreciate that. It's definitely I'm gonna keep that for the highlight reel.
Hey, collaboration, not competition.
Hey, exactly. I like that. I appreciate that. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we've gone Too Hard, Too Fast with Carmona, making a film here in San Antonio, Texas, King of the South. Look out for it, and remember, dare to be you, dare to be weird. Bye.